66 games have been played in this NCAA tournament, and now there's only one game left to decide the national champions, the Texas Tech Red Raiders and the Virginia Cavaliers. Both these teams squaring off for the national championship. Both these teams looking for their first NCAA tournament championship in school history. It's going to be a good one. So let's quickly go over how both these teams got here. The Texas Tech Red Raiders. Man, that was a team that I definitely overlooked heading into March Madness. I had them losing in the second round, and that's one of my biggest regrets of my bracket is having Texas Tech go out so early in the tournament. I should have at least put them in the Elite Eight at the bare minimum. I mean, I regret so many things about my bracket, but that's probably one of the biggest ones at this point. So, Texas Tech, they have dominated every opponent they've played. Some of them may not show it on the scoreboard, but they definitely dominated their opponents. They beat Northern Kentucky pretty convincingly. They beat Buffalo convincingly. They beat up Buffalo. They also beat up on Michigan. Gonzaga, that was kind of a barn burner. And it kind of came down to the wire a little bit, but Texas Tech, they pulled it out in the end. And they dominated Michigan State. Now, even though the scoreboard may not say that they completely dominated, this team does remind me of last year's Villanova team, where they were just steamrolling every opponent that they played in the NCAA tournament. Although the scoreboard will say that the Gonzaga game was close, it really wasn't. The further along all the games that Texas Tech played and went, the better that they got as a team. Especially last night's semifinal matchup against the Spartans. It seemed like they couldn't miss a single shot in the second half. They were scoring at will in that second half. They ended the game on a 12-0 run, and ultimately they've made it to the national championship game. For the Virginia Cavaliers, they have faced so much adversity this season because just last year they were the number 1 overall seed in the NCAA tournament, and they lost to UMBC, the 16th seed, the first 1 seed to ever lose to a 16 seed in NCAA tournament history. And they faced so much adversity this season. No matter how good Virginia was going to get, they were all going to be reminded of that loss to UMBC. And I think this is going to be the case, well, this possibly could be the case, if Virginia ends up winning this NCAA tournament tomorrow night. I feel like there's going to be a handful of people that remember Virginia winning this NCAA tournament. I feel like there's going to be also another handful of people that are going to say that they're not going to remember it. They're only going to remember Virginia as that 1 seed to lose to the 16th seed. Although, for people like me and for sports fans altogether, I'll remember both of them. I'll remember 1 year Virginia loses to UMBC, and the next year Virginia wins the NCAA tournament. I'll remember both of them because if Virginia wins this NCAA tournament tomorrow night, if they win tomorrow's championship game, I think it's going to be a good redemption story for sports. Because 1 year you make history for the wrong reasons, for the negative reasons, and then the next year you make history for positive reasons. So that'd be a good redemption story for all of sports if Virginia wins this national championship. So ultimately, here's how I think this game is going to go. I think that both these teams, this is a very fair matchup in the championship game. Although you can argue and say that Virginia shouldn't be here because the refs missed a call on a double dribble, but we just have to get over it. The game is over with. This is the championship game that we have, and it's the one we're going to watch. So I think both these teams, they stack up pretty equally amongst each other. Both these teams play good defense. Both these teams can score. Although Texas Tech has done a little bit better of scoring than Virginia has in this NCAA tournament. Now, the one thing that's worried me about Virginia, at least going into this tournament, is were they going to run into an opponent at some point that would just score at will on them? And this is what Texas Tech could do to them. Because in Virginia's last 6 NCAA tournament losses, they have been held to 45, 59, 54, 62, 39, and 54 points. So that was my biggest worry about Virginia heading this tournament is, would they end up facing a team like even an Auburn or a Tennessee or a Kentucky or a Duke or North Carolina or a Gonzaga that was going to just completely outrun them, completely outscore them, score at will basically. And that's what I think Texas Tech may be able to do. Although if Virginia wins this, for Virginia to win this game, they can't let the game get away from them early. Because if they let the game get away from them early, it's going to be nearly impossible to come back on this Red Raider team. Michigan State almost did it. They were down by 13 with 9.5 to go in the game. They brought it back to within 1, but ultimately Texas Tech, they pull it out in the end. They ended the game, I believe it was on a 12-0 run to end the game. So, how I see this game turning out. I see both these teams, they match up pretty well. Both the depth on both these teams are pretty strong. However, I think Texas Tech's depth is a little bit better than Virginia's depth. And I'm with the minority in saying that this is going to be a high-scoring game. Many think it's going to be the first one to 50 wins. But I think this is going to be a very high-scoring game. I just think in the end, Texas Tech has much deeper depth than Virginia does. And I think Texas Tech wins this NCAA tournament by a score of 75-63. I think it's going to be that type of game. I think it's going to be a close one all throughout. But just like I covered earlier, the further along the game is going to go, the better I think Texas Tech is going to get. So that's my pick. Leave your pick down below, like, share, and subscribe. Now we'll see you pretty soon with my NHL playoff predictions. We've got the NBA playoff predictions coming up. So we've got 2 big videos coming out pretty soon. Kind of going out of my comfort zone a little bit, but I'll see you then.